Hi everyone, it's QuickyBaby and welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've really got to get something off my chest about the Object 452K, the assembly shop, just everything about the release of this vehicle, as I've just been letting it build up and I think it's just ending up really frustrating me. I feel as if the assembly shop has kind of hit the worst kind of aspects of it. I genuinely feel that the whole process is kind of just a milking right now, and I feel that the Object 452K and this assembly shop has been the worst one yet by far. And today I'm going to be letting you know in the video exactly why I feel like this. So firstly, for everyone who's been hiding under the rock, what is the Object 452K and what is the assembly shop? The assembly shop is an event that seems to happen every 6 months where Wargaming put in a rare tier 10 vehicle with a special style, which will cost, originally I think it was 800,000 free experience, and now it's up to 100,000 free experience. You can spend other currencies. The rough cost is depending on what you choose to spend and whether you take into account Wargaming's discounts throughout the year and whether you hoard your currency and only, say, for example, convert it during the free experience discounts. The tank costs between $100 to $200, although some people will be able to naturally generate that currency, which will mean that for those players it's cheaper. But for the average Joe out there who still wants to spend their free experience on modules and not dump it into a tier 10 tank, they're pretty much having to pony up about $100 worth of currency to be able to get this tank. Now they are fairly exclusive. There's 80,000 available on the EU server, 10,000 on the NA, and 10,000 on the Asia server. And you might be surprised with just how many of them have already sold within the first, 24 hours of the auction taking place. Now, one thing that is nice about this event is it's a flat price, so you do feel as if the price won't increase. It's not an auction, so to say. It's more of a speed competition amongst the player base to try and get numbers on their tanks. Yesterday I was a little bit slow. I got 291 on the EU server, whereas in the previous couple of events I think I got 29 on the Kampfpanzer and I think it's 40 something on the Lion. So yeah, I was a little bit slower yesterday. I've been a little bit stressed, honestly. There's a few things going on in my life as well that have been bothering me. Don't worry, everything's fine. Everything's fine. Don't need to go on about it. Everything's fine. Everything's working out. But yeah, I was streaming and I guess I was just a little bit slower this time. Look at me looking for excuses as to why probably it's a skill issue and I didn't click quickly, right? I digress. I want to focus back on the event and the 452K itself. And that is that people are effectively contesting for numbers. Yesterday, all of the numbers on the European server, all 40,000 of the stars that were available sold out in a couple of minutes, which is pretty much how long it takes most players to kind of like click to fill up the blueprint bar. If you want to get a low number, your only real option is to either do 1 million credits or to do like 55,000 gold. Sorry, when I say 1 million credits, I mean 1 million free experience. Because you had to fill only one bar and you do not have time to click. When to be able to get a sub 1,000 number, you pretty much have to do about 6 clicks within about 5 seconds, as well as also filling up the 1 million free experience. So it's kind of a little bit unfair on a lot of players in a way who maybe want to use the more economic currencies like blueprints. Because if you want to get a good number, well, a low number, some people would consider to be a better number than a low number, like a well-rounded number, like to get number 1,000 or to 1,337, for example, to be elite inside World of Tanks. But I digress. It really, for a lot of players, is just a clicking speed run to try and make sure you secure one of those stars in the first few minutes. So here are my problems with the ISU 14 of the 452K and the assembly shop in general. Firstly, I completely stand by what I said in my review. I think I invested time and I was bang on with this vehicle. It's a C-grade tank at best, and it's an IS-4 that, at least in my opinion, is less fun. Wargaming are selling this vehicle, as you would have seen in their trailer, as a super heavy, where frankly it's not a super heavy at all. It's actually quite fragile. It does have good armor, there's no doubt, especially when it's in a position like this, where it gets to use its 7 degrees of gun depression, when you find that magical ridgeline where 7 degrees is enough to be able to hide your hull as well. However, the amount that this tank was set on fire, the amount that this tank was ammo racked, strongly suggests to me that you're going to have to sacrifice some of your very precious experimental equipment to be able to put the improved durability on this vehicle to stop it from being an absolute tinderbox. In fact, I managed to ammo rack a couple of these tanks in a single stream alone from full health while playing, which was outrageous, as well as setting multiple tanks on fire. I would thoroughly recommend on this vehicle that you get the final field mod, and don't spend the free experience to rush it, and then you take the module durability increase. It will change the vehicle, it will stop it from getting ammo racked so much, it will stop it from its fuel tanks being damaged so much, and if that's not enough, get the experimental config, or the experimental durability, or get the modified config if you want to cheap out, just to be able to try and prevent some of that RNG. So on top of that, it's basically just a less fun IS-4. It has almost identical kind of IS-4 gameplay with the way that the frontal hull works, with the way that the side armor needs to be angled. Although it does have really annoying things about the side hull here, that the wings become a weak point if you over-angle it, and this lower plate is abysmal, unlike on the IS-4. Yesterday I got penned by an FE405 shell from the front, which was pretty unfortunate. I was unlucky in the scenario, but yeah, you really do notice that 80mm of lower plate armor on this tank. But look, okay, Wargaming have put in lots of clones, and even some of the clones in World of Tanks are still exciting. Like, for example, I feel that the Mars, low effort content by Wargaming, put it in, reskin, charge 25,000 gold for the first Mars auction, then at Christmas, like about 17,000 gold to be able to get your hands on basically what is just a Progetto, that nobody would really spend that much gold on a Progetto, right? So I don't really think the fact that this is a clone of the IS-4 would mean that the tank was it was a horrendous assembly shop just within that regard. One of my biggest problems is this is the third heavy tank out of 4 assembly shop tanks. Wargaming, you do realize there are other classes in the game. There are light tanks, tank destroyers, and I wouldn't really recommend putting in a tier 10 self-propelled gun, right? But to lack light tanks and tank destroyers inside the assembly shop when this is the 4th one is preposterous. The next thing that irritates me is we've already had a tier 10 Soviet heavy tank inside the assembly shop. We had the Object 780, which was the inaugural one, the first one, and it was cheaper than this. It was, 800,000 free experience, and inflation has put it up now to 1 million free experience. And so, why do we need more tier 10 Soviet heavies inside the game? We don't. We've got the 2790, we've got the 260, we had the 780, now we've got the 452K. Am I missing any of them? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. But look, to have 4 of them when we don't have a tier 10 Polish reward heavy tank, we don't have a tier 10 Czechoslovakian reward heavy tank, we don't have a Swedish reward tier 10 heavy tank. That's just to name a few. And we don't even have, well, I guess now we have a Japanese tier 8 premium, but imagine if Wargaming had put in like some kind of type 5 heavy premium, not premium, but reward vehicle at tier 10. They could have had so much more fun with it, and it would have been such a more rewarding, interesting experience to have another crew trainer and another really funky tank from a nation. Even if it had been a heavy. Or maybe we could have had some of the underrepresented mediums at tier 10 could have gone into the game. We don't have a Japanese reward tier 10 medium, for example. And that's just the medium list. Why Wargaming seem to just keep producing German and Soviet vehicles? I know there was a lot of designs, that's fair, but why Wargaming can't? They've basically been making up tanks and creating them, and I have no problem with them making up tanks and creating them inside the game. That's absolutely fine, as long as they're fun and as long as they're interesting. And I can tell you, the Object 452K, it's not as fun as an IS-4, and I'm getting such fatigue with these kind of hold down super heavies, which this one really isn't. Just going into the game, but especially when they're Soviet and they're heavy, why can't we have some variety, Wargaming? The next thing that really irritates me about this vehicle is that the stats of this tank were only finalized the day of its release, which puts people like me in a very tricky situation altogether. Do we go out, do community contributors go out and rush tank reviews in a very short period of time to give you, not great opinions, or at least not conclusive conclusions that are well-rounded with many days or hopefully a week to be able to play the tank to get a real idea of how it performs. Now, for a regular release, this wouldn't be such a big deal. If a tank was going to be sold for a week, 2 weeks, or a month, then everybody would have enough time to go and play it, make more reviews. The community contributors would be able to release reviews after the release date where they would still be relevant. But in this example, this tank, to all intents and purposes, was going to sell out with regards to the style 3 minutes after it was released. And so by Wargaming giving the community contributors practically no lead time with the final stats of the vehicle, it led to issues where I had to go and review the vehicle with outdated stats. Luckily, they weren't so preposterous with this vehicle, the changes that Wargaming wanted to implement with regards to the top speed, the engine power, and the reverse speed, that it wasn't hard for me to imagine that even though I did poorly with the vehicle in its unbuffed form, I knew that the vehicle wasn't going to end up being all that strong. That's why I gave it kind of like, at best, a B, most likely a C grade rating, with the unfortunate situation that I had of having not very much time with a non-final version tank. So what I'm trying to say is that with assembly shop vehicles, it would be so great if Wargaming would finalize their stats significantly in advance, so people like me can do our job to let the community know whether a vehicle is going to be worth $100 of your currency. It's one of the biggest things that's important to me, and one of the first things that I was doing as a content creator since I've been making YouTube videos in 2012 is to help the community make better decisions with their money. I am quite a frugal person, and I would not like the idea that my community, who I feel very close to me, are not getting all of the information that they need to be able to make their own decisions with your money. And trust me, you have to work a lot harder for your money than I have to. I bloody just play video games in my pajamas. I'm very thankful for that. I appreciate all of you for sustaining me in that regard. And I all I can really do is just kind of make more videos and make more content to just say thank you for that. I really appreciate it. So the other thing that was just ridiculous about this vehicle was the fact that the armor on the mantlet, and for everyone who doesn't know what we're going on about here, this very important aspect of this tank, which Wargaming was, I guess, advertising in their video as being the best and nothing can be able to go through this in the game. Well, actually, it was bugged, and it was only about 300 or 320 millimeters thick, and so Super Conqueror APCR shells could go through it. And this was bugged up until 1 hour before the assembly shop time was going to occur on the Asia server. And so accordingly, Wargaming had to delay the assembly shop by 24 hours on each of the servers, with only giving about 1 hour notice to the Asia server and about 6 hours notice to the European server, which is ridiculous because a lot of players out there will have known from Wargaming's announcement, which I think was on the Tuesday, that the assembly shop was coming. I'd hate for players to have gone out of their way to reschedule their time to make sure they were there to be able to get the vehicle as it's released. As to all intents and purposes, they might have only had 5 minutes to get any of the vehicles, let alone the ones with the styles. So I feel terrible for players who were unable to be able to get their hands on one of the styles because Wargaming shifted the goalposts through a mistake on their behalf by 24 hours, causing quite an inconvenience to their player base. Now, in addition to this, the sad thing is that yesterday, as I was streaming, I was seeing people saying in my chat, "Oh, I'm still at work. I really hope they're still available when I come home." And maybe those players could have been able to make it on the Thursday. They might not have been working on the Thursday, but they, to all intents and purposes, were working on the Friday instead. Now, I know that issues happen, and I understand that Wargaming at least delaying it was probably better than them putting them in the game with false advertising. But this is something that should be finalized ahead. And Wargaming's quality control recently has been very poor, and I don't know why. Now, look, I think it's important that Wargaming do release vehicles with the correct statistics, and if a tank is too powerful, they change the statistics, and if it's too awful, they change the statistics as well. But why is this balancing being done so darn late? It's ridiculous. With the amount of lead time that usually Wargaming do have on their events, which is probably about 6 months, I do feel that the statistics should be locked in place many weeks before. And Wargaming have got a really big issue with the quality of their testing from either their super test or from, I guess, their super testers who are playing tanks like this, and they have been on the server as a whole. Now look, while it's early days, I also want to highlight that the Object 452K has the worst win ratio difference of any Tier 10 Soviet tank. Now look, keep in mind, this is because a lot of players are playing it for the first time. They don't have an idea of the intricacies of the tank and how to use the armor. They don't have the field mods, and so it's quite likely that these statistics will get a little bit better. But I don't think they're going to get much better. There's a reason why I felt so strongly about this tank in my tank review, and I said it was at best a B, if not a C grade tank. And it looks like it's performing more at the C level in the hands of the average player. And this is why I feel so strongly that reviews from community contributors are so darn important. With the amount of hype that's generated around a vehicle like this that might sell out, at least with the styles, within 3 minutes of it even being available, the fact that the community contributors weren't able to get the tank with its final statistics for an assembly shop, that should be fixed going forwards. Because if a tank's going to sell out in 3 minutes, you will need to have an opinion on the vehicle at least a day before. And unfortunately, we couldn't play the tank with the final statistics until literally the day of the release. If, of course, it hadn't been delayed. But by that point, we had to release our reviews, put them all together in whatever shape or form we could with the incorrect statistics or the non-final statistics of the tank to be able to still get you as informed as possible. Now, with all of this said and done, out of the 80,000 that are available, I said that the 40,000 on the European server sold out within 3 minutes. And now I went and checked, and less than 24 hours after they were available, less than 19 hours where they were available on the European server, there are only 9,000 available currently. That's without the style. And if you're wondering where that guy hit me, I thought, come on, I've got to be the god tier armor here. He actually hit a pixel on the pixel on the top of the tank. So with only 9,000 available on the European server, despite all of these issues that the 452K has had, look, community, I am not judging any of you for deciding to purchase this tank. I'm not judging anyone for wanting to go and spend whatever you wanted on this vehicle. It's your choice, it's your currency, it's your money. If you liked the look of the vehicle just because it looks cool, or because it looks like it had a fun playstyle in a hype video that Wargaming made and you wanted to buy this tank, that's fine. I'm not judging anyone. But the fact of the matter is that on the European server alone, Wargaming, if we factor in that this vehicle was worth about $100 of currency, that they made about $4 million in 3 minutes for selling this vehicle. And I'd be very surprised if the other 40,000 without the styles do sell out within today on the European server, which will be an additional $4 million. Now, do keep in mind that a lot of the currency that people earned to be able to get this tank, they wouldn't have had to have paid for. But for everybody who did earn that million free experience for free through grinding the game, and because they're a whale and they've finished the game already and they don't need to spend free experience on anything else, there was probably somebody who ponied up 55,000 gold on release day at full price, which would have probably been like $150 or more. So what the message the community is sending to Wargaming is that we're going to buy it anyway. Wargaming can release arguably the worst tier 10 Soviet tank as the second Soviet tier 10 heavy out of the 4 vehicles that we've had in the assembly shop. They can release it a day late with a bugged mantlet, with non-final statistics, and these vehicles are still going to sell out. So why should Wargaming put any more effort in? Well, the answer is they don't have to. If the community keep lapping up absolutely everything that Wargaming throw at them, irrelevant if it's a less fun IS-4, and are jumping at the opportunity to give them $100 worth of currency, then I really don't see them changing their ways. But I want to reiterate, I'm not blaming anyone for wanting to have this vehicle. Look, I was the first person there to be able to rush to get my hands on this vehicle. I am the whale of whales, and I'm going to click whatever Wargaming create as quickly as I can, because I'm hook, line, and sinker. Wargaming have harpooned the living daylights out of me. But I have to admit, this is my job. It's my job to create content. It's my job to collect it as I go on so I can continue to showcase it for my streams or to feature it in future YouTube videos. But I can tell you, if I wasn't a content creator, even if I was the most hardened tank collector, I would feel a little bit mugged that I spent $100 of currency on yet another tier 10 Soviet heavy tank that frankly isn't all that fun, and I think it's just a hype train of snake oil. And the final word I want to put in is that a lot of people are going, oh well, QB, look at the 2 amazing games that you had. My team go on to win this round, by the way, but yeah, just because I had 2 amazing games out of the 20 that I played, I wasn't really achieving fantastic statistics in this tank, and I think the statistics the community are achieving are far more telling than a sweaty noob cherry-picking 2 games. Anyway, ladies and gents, boys and girls, that was it for today. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you hated it, give it a thumbs down. And let me know in the comments what you think about everything that I've brought up in this video. Did you buy the Object 452K? Are you absolutely loving it? Are you absolutely hating it? Do you feel that you've been lied to at any part of the process? And what would you like to see with regards to the assembly shop from Wargaming in the future? And if you're watching this video as it goes live on Saturday, I'm going live all day on twitch.tv/QuickyBaby, where you can come and get yourself some new drops tokens. So come along. Tell me in chat what you think about the Object 452K and get yourself some fat loot at the same time. And as always, thank you so much for watching. You've been epic, and hopefully I'll see you soon.